Eagles have announced that Brian Johnson will be their new offensive coordinator. Johnson spent the past 2 seasons as the quarterback's coach and helped Jalen Hurts develop into an MVP candidate. Prior to that, he was the offensive coordinator at Florida and previously coached Dak Prescott at Mississippi State. And Sean Desai will become the Eagles' next defensive coordinator. Desai spent last season as the Seahawks' associate head coach. Prior to that, he was the Bears' defensive coordinator, and he's previously spent time at Temple as an assistant coach. Some local ties. With that, welcome into Barrett's Huddle, powered by PointsBet, here with Barrett Brooks and our Eagles insider, Reuben Frank. I am Taryn Hatcher, and Howie Roseman can cross a couple things off his to-do list. At this point, I guess, guys, he still has quite a bit to do, though. Nice that that's sort of out of the way, Rube.
He's got so much to do, doesn't he?
I'm still recovering from that Carson Strong video we just watched. I forgot about that guy, but yeah, look, I mean, it's we all know what he's got to do. He's got to get Jalen signed and then get the rest of it figured out. But it's Howie Roseman. He will get it done.
I mean, I would think that this was priority 1 and 2 and 3 is probably Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts.
Well, yeah, I mean, Jalen Hurts probably number 1, and they're going through the contract negotiations now. But I mean, they had to get a coordinator. You know, they're just due. Get them in so they can figure out which way they want to go with the players they're going to get.
And I'm sure Jalen Hurts, this helps those contract negotiations.
Absolutely.
Now that his guy is that OC. Today, Nick Sirianni spoke about the new coaches while at the Combine. Here's the bird's eye view presented by Bush Auto Group.
You know, just a really sharp coach, and you know, excited that he's on our staff. I think we interviewed a really good group of guys, and was really impressed by all of them, actually. You know, and just at the end of the day, you know, obviously, you know, some experience that Sean's had calling it, but also, you know, just I got to do what's best, what I feel is best for the team. You know, with Brian, I'm in there with him every single day, and you know, seeing him work every single day, right? Seeing him with the quarterback, with the quarterbacks, seeing him in game planning meetings, seeing him on the practice field, like, and so. You know, I thought that was the natural progression for us to go that route, and you know, his relationship with Jalen, and just Brian's a sharp dude.
All right, and that brings us to tonight's 3-point stance. Stance number 1, the Eagles offense will stay elite with Brian Johnson as OC. Barrett, the name of the game here. Continuity.
No question. You get continuity, you get consistency. You know, the message won't be changed. It won't be interrupted because those two work together, you know, for the majority of the time inside the meeting rooms all the time. You know, he was like that direct contact even when, you know, the old office coordinator was there. Brian Johnson has known Jalen Hurts for such a long time. He is just a great play caller also from what I saw when he was in Florida. His ability, you know, to make players better. You know, that's what he did. So, yeah, I mean, this is something that's seamless as far as, you know, him becoming offensive coordinator. It was almost a done deal as soon as we figured out that we lost our offensive coordinator.
Rube, we just heard Barrett mention the play calling. Nick Sirianni really was able to take his coaching up to the next level once Shane Steichen took over play calling. What do you expect from Brian Johnson now as he steps into that role?
Yeah, like Barrett said, he's got experience doing it, and that was, you know, priority number 1. I asked Nick before, I think it was about a week ago, when he met with us, will you call the plays with the new offensive coordinator coming in? He said no. And that's before they announced, like, I think he knew who he was going to hire, but he was so quick to say no. He loves being the CEO of the team, and it obviously worked. Yeah. And there's something like 22-7 since he gave up play calling,
right.
and that includes one game that was, you know, they weren't trying to win. So I think the dynamic really works. It's still Nick's offense, and that's the important thing to remember. He's still drawing up the plays. It's his play design. It's his scheme. He's just not calling the plays on Sunday.
I was going to say, I remember him being asked about it mid-season this season, and you really didn't get the sense that he gave anything up when he turned it over as much as he gained the ability to control it, at least at that point in that season. That's how he felt about giving up play calling. So it'll be interesting to see how this new dynamic works. All right, on to stance number 2. Sean Desai has a blank slate on defense, right, Rube?
No, and
okay, there you go.
This is, look, I think there's a sense that because Nick is an offensive coach, he just leaves all that to the defensive coaching staff. That's not the case. He's got a very clear idea of how he wants the defense to look. And, you know, so the coordinator's coming in, and that's why I think that's why he hired Sean Desai. He's a guy who, when he was in Chicago, when he was in Seattle, I mean, I have the blitz numbers here, guys. They were 29th in the league blitzing with Chicago when he was DC in 21. They were 31st last year in Seattle when he was assistant to the head coach. This is a guy that believes in getting pressure from your defensive front, just like Gannon did. And that's from Nick. That's coming from Nick. So I think, you're looking for guys who share an appreciation for the scheme and understand the importance of doing things a certain way. If you're Nick Sirianni, you're not going to hire a defensive coordinator, no matter how successful he's been, who doesn't share your vision for what the defense should look like. So that's why you got to get this guy in place before the combine.
Yeah.
Because there's a certain type of player you're looking for when you start drafting. So it's definitely going to be a collaborative effort on both sides of the ball. And I think, look, there's some really good coaches that just give the coordinators autonomy on the other side of the ball. Nick's not like that. This will be his defense, somebody else running it.
Yeah, but from a player's point of view, he has really carte blanche to 8 spots as far as starters. I mean, they don't have the same guys that will be here because they can't sign everybody. So when you look at, from that aspect, he's going to have the autonomy to, interact with Howie, interact with the head coach, and see who they can bring in to fit what he's trying to do, what concepts he's trying to do. A lot of people, he's a 3-4 type of guy, so they zone blitz a lot. And it's not necessarily a blitz because they bring 4. It might be the 3 down guys and a linebacker from the outside. It might be the 3 down guys and a cornerback from the outside. It'll be 4 blitz, but you don't call it a blitz just because, the number of people they bring is going to stay the same.
So personnel-wise, blank slate. Concept-wise, not so much.
Yeah.
All right, finally, a Jalen Hurts extension is in the works. It's our stance number 3. And here is Howie Roseman today on trying to get a deal done with his QB number 1.
You want to find a win-win solution. You want to find something that he feels really good about, and at the same time that we feel good about, and because surround him with good players, and he knows that. I mean, he's a smart guy. He understands that, and that doesn't mean that it's not going to be a tremendous contract for him.
And yes, I did dress like Howie today on purpose. No, Rube, do you think this gets done quickly now that the coordinator situation is found out and it's very high on Howie's priority list? We kind of know that's the case.
It's got to happen somewhat quickly just so you can get to the business of the rest of the roster. But this is an incredibly complicated deal. You see some of these quarterback contracts,
yes,
like 50 pages long, just working out exactly how the money is broken up, guaranteed money, the different bonuses, the base salaries, the cap figures. It's not going to be an easy contract to complete. I think once they have a general sense of where they are with Jalen, then you'll see other guys start to sign. But it could be a few weeks, it could be a month before the whole thing is finally done.
Yeah, you look at it, they know who their franchise quarterback is. They know he's the leader of the team. So they're not going to go out there and slouch as far as giving him the money that he deserves. They just want to make it friendly for them and make it, so he's happy also. You don't want to have a quarterback out there who's kind of pissed off that he's, not making the money he should be making. So, yeah, I think that they're going to get this job done. They're going to get this deal done, but they must get it done ASAP simply because they got to sign everybody else.
It'll be interesting to see how the QB dominoes fall. They always impact each other's contracts. Back here on Barrett's Huddle, and it's time for a combine check-in. I'm Taryn Hatcher here with Barrett Brooks and Reuben Frank, and we head to Indianapolis now to chat with Mr. Dave Zangaro, who is our eyes and ears at the combine. Dave, it looks like the Eagles have decided on some coordinators. What did you learn about Sean Desai, who is now set to become the new DC here in Philly?
Yeah, it seemed like it was trending this way. He was obviously one of the finalists, and they were really impressed by him. I think he's going to run a lot of those Vic Fangio scheme things that we saw under Jonathan Gannon in 2022. So there's some continuity there. Obviously, the pieces are going to be a little bit different, but I had a chance to talk to Pete Carroll a little bit today about this guy. He called him a brilliant football mind. They really enjoyed their year together in Seattle, but obviously Desai had 9 years in Chicago, eventually rose to the rank of defensive coordinator, which is what he takes over in Philadelphia. They're really excited about him, and I'm curious to see what the rest of the staff on defense looks like around him.
What else did you take away, Dave, from Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni's press conferences today? They both spoke, and there was a little bit of pandering from each of them, which, when it comes to Nick, no shock. Good laugh, though. What did you think about their press conferences, Dave?
Yeah, I thought there was a lot of good information that came out today. And one of the things was Howie Roseman talking about the free agents. Obviously, they have a ton of really high profile free agents that are pending, whether it's James Bradbury, Javon Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, the list goes on and on and on. And he admitted that they're not going to be able to keep all those players. And I think that's what we already kind of knew, but the admission from the GM is a big deal. And he also explained that during the season, the reason they didn't have any extensions, which really seemed out of character, was because he didn't want to change the dynamic in that locker room. There was a team that they thought had Super Bowl potential, and they were right, and they didn't want to start picking one guy here and one guy there to extend. They said, we're just going to wait until after the season, and it might end up hurting them, but in the moment, I think it was a wise choice.
Okay, so we have our own GM in the building here, Reuben Frank, who dropped his first mock draft of the offseason. And Rube, could you take us through your picks for the Eagles? At number 10, you have Devin Witherspoon, the corner from Illinois. What are your thoughts when you look at your draft?
Yeah, and that's all anybody looks at is the two Eagles picks. I mean, just skim through the mock draft till you get to these guys. Witherspoon's a guy maybe doesn't have ideal size, but what I like about him is just he's got that physical edge. He's got that aggressive edge that I think Eagles fans will like, and he kind of makes up for his lack of ideal size. He's not small. I mean, he's 6 foot, 180. But he's just got that edge. He likes to come up and support the run, as you can see. He's just a physical player, and I think he'll fit this defense. Maybe not the biggest name among the cornerbacks, but, man, I like the way he plays.
You're right. He'll stick his nose in there all the time. So, that would be a good pick because he's aggressive. And, like you said, he is 6 foot, so he could play at this level.
All right, and speaking of pandering, Rube, I think very unintentionally, a little bit of pandering when you look at the number 30 pick from Kansas State edge rusher, Felix Anudike Ozama. This is a name that is going to haunt us until this draft is over, but I will work on it every day. And what have you seen from him, Rube, that you like him at 30?
Well, other than the fact that he went to K-State.
Yes, sir. Wildcat, baby.
I never should have gone this direction. But, look, they're going to come out of this. First of all, I wouldn't be shocked if he trades out of 30. I think that's probably most likely. But if I was going to pick a player here, it's going to be an O-line or a D-line. And there really wasn't an O-lineman that made sense at the end of the first round who I had left. So I think this is a polished player who can come right in and make an impact as a pass rusher, rushing from the inside, I think.
Absolutely.
And just get better and better. I think he's got a lot of upside. He's got a high ceiling, and I think he'd be a good fit.
Barrett, I'm going to assume you've seen some film on the kid. What do you think?
He's living with him.
I actually called 3 games for Kansas State, and he was a unique talent because he has great get off. And me and Rube talked about it earlier on, and he reminds me a lot of another Kansas State guy, Darren Howard. But he's more of a complete player than Darren is. He's an every down guy. He can go and play against the run, rush the passer. He'll be a great pick if they do have number 30. He'll be a great pick there.
All right, well, there you have it from Barrett, the K-State expert himself. All right, with that, let's get to our pick and click poll question presented by Turnersville Auto Mall. Should the Eagles use both first-round picks on defensive players? Log on to NBCSportsPhiladelphia.com/pick and click to vote. Barrett, what do you think of that question in Rube's Hall for the Birds? Would you go D twice over, especially because when we're talking about free agents, Birds have a ton, and a ton of them are on the defensive side.
Well, yeah, I think you would have to go from that aspect. Replenish the forces on defense. You need guys that could play right now. Both of those guys, both Witherspoon and his
FAU, we'll call him.
He can definitely come in and contribute right now, especially now that we have a coordinator. We know they're going to go a 3-4 type of system. So he's going to have to play either that end or play on the outside or rush when they put a 4 down now. So he'd be a perfect match. I think they need to use both of those picks. I don't want them to trade out of the first round. I think it'd be great for them to stay there and get 2 valuable picks that could play at this point going forward. It'll be great for them to do that.
Rube, I know you picked 2 defensive players, but do you think that's kind of the route that they have to go here, keeping both those first-round picks and using them both on defense?
I don't think they have to. I think there is some value in getting out of 30 and getting some picks, and they do need reinforcements. They don't have a lot of picks, so Howie loves to turn picks into more picks. So I do think there's a chance they'll do that. If they go offense, look, it's not going to be a running back. It's certainly not going to be a quarterback or a wide receiver. It's not going to be a tight end. So it's either going to be an offensive lineman or a defensive player.
Absolutely.
And it really, at least before the combine, there is an offensive lineman that really lines up at number 30. So I think most likely if they stay at 30, it'll be a defensive player.
All right, and finally, we want to check in with our not forgotten fourth member here, Dave Zangaro. Thank you so much for joining us. We will check out all of your work on NBCSportsPhiladelphia.com and check in with you tomorrow.
Thanks, guys.